Hi, here's a review from The Warning by Kathryn Croft. I just want to show you what the cover says. You thought you knew what happened to your son. You may not be able to read it, so I just wanted to mention it. Okay, let me start off with a thought. Basically, this was another 5-star book for me. Actually, several of the books I've read of late have been 5 stars. So either I'm picking winners or I don't know what's going on, but this was a great book. Now, the blurb is: my little boy's room was empty, his bed neatly made. Alarm bells should have rung immediately. Then the knock on the door came. All I remember is a thick fog wrapping itself tightly around me. This couldn't be happening to us. 3 years ago, Nurse Zoe's son Ethan was found drowned in a muddy river by their home along with his best friend Josh. With no witnesses, their deaths were ruled a tragic accident. Heartbroken, Zoe and her family move away from her home. They're just beginning to get back to some kind of normality when, out of the blue, Zoe receives an anonymous email. It reads, "You need to find out the truth about what happened to your son. Don't let this rest. Don't believe the lie." Shaken, Zoe starts an obsessive hunt for the truth. But why is her husband so reluctant to help? And why is Josh's mother so determined not to believe her? An absolutely unputdownable psychological thriller about a mother's desperate search for the truth. Fans of The Girl on the Train and Gone Girl will be hooked from the very first stage. This was a Bookature book that was released on October 12th. I did do this for a blog tour, and as I already mentioned, I gave it 5 stars. Now, Zoe has taken 3 years to cope with the death of her son, Ethan Monahan. Obviously, her world was turned upside down, but she's made it 3 years. They do have another son, and her family is struggling, but they are surviving. Well, her world is turned upside down yet again because she gets this email. I've already read it in the description, but I'll read it again. You need to find out the truth about what happened to your son down by the river 3 years ago. Don't let this rest. Don't believe the lie. It was no accident. Can you imagine how you would feel if you got an email like that? Well, that's what Zoe had to cope with. Obviously, she's quite desperate and she wants to know what happened. Wait a minute, I thought it was an accident. Now you're telling me that it isn't? So she and her husband, they go to the police. The police say, well, it might just be a prank. And so she tries to deal with that. But it niggles at her. 3 years later, what's going on? Well, she begins to receive other emails. As it turns out, she begins to wonder if she's being targeted because she approaches Josh's mother, the other boy that died when her son died, but this other woman is not receiving any emails at all. So why is Zoe? Now, obviously, she asks a lot of questions, not just to Josh's mother, but anybody that she can find that may have known her son Ethan before he passed away. The entire story is told from a first-person perspective of Zoe. It's her story. It made it very absorbing. It was very hard not to be drawn into the story because of the way it was delivered. So quite naturally, I felt her pain. I was very, very affected by the story. Now, not only is her role as a mother explored, but also her role as a wife. And this was a real serious part of the story as you get to know her husband and what his take on the whole matter is. Meanwhile, there's a lot of twists and turns in the story. And as these come, it's mainly because of the emails. The nature of them is changing, and there are several of them that come along the way. Now, there are other characters in the story. There's Jake, Zoe's husband. There's Harley, their other son. There's Roberta and Adrian, who were Josh's parents. Well, their stories were all compelling as well, and they were discussed. I didn't mean that I liked all of them, but their stories were significant. It all came together. It was an exceptional read. I really, really, I want to say enjoyed it. It was tragic, but it was an excellent, excellent read. Now, when I got to the end of the story, I will tell you that I was completely and utterly shocked. I knew there wasn't going to be a happy ending. Obviously not, because anybody that reads about the aftermath of a death of a child would be greatly affected. But let's just say that when you get to the ending, you realize it definitely was worth the read. Now, I did use an expression in my written review how the author took us down what might seem like rabbit trails as we're reading the story, but it comes to a very surprising finality. It comes together really well. It was very well done. So if you are a fan of psychological thrillers, I think that you'll like this book very much. As always, when I read a new author for the first time, I look at Goodreads or uh, Fantastic Fiction, I believe, to see what other books that they've written. Well, she has written several other psychological thrillers, and I would like to check them out because this is my favorite genre. So I will take some of her titles, put them in my TBR, and maybe one day down the line get a chance to read all of them. But at the very least, she's going to be one of the first authors that I pick up in preceding books. But anyway, that's it. I hope that this review was helpful in helping you decide if you want to give this book a shot. I will put the title of the book as well as the link to the written review in the description below. All right, that's it. Thank you. Bye.